Welcome, welcome. Good morning. It's bright and early on Sunday morning, the 23rd of October 2022. My name is Solange Ellen and I'm gonna name names. I've been going through this process of breaking up with the bank is what I thought I was doing, but really turned out to be breaking free of the Illuminati and freeing myself from being a slave under the monarch trauma-based mind control programming, which is pretty full-on stuff. That was like a big quantum leap for me to be like, what? I didn't know what that was or what that meant. I mean, I knew it existed. I knew it existed because I've read other survivors' stories. I just didn't know that I had been subjected to it. So I've been, trying to educate myself about that. I'm in my little camper, which is a really beautiful space that one of my kind friends has made available for me to be able to have some peace and privacy and solitude to be able to do my healing, because it's really full on horrific stuff. What the Illuminati are into is pure evil. It is all of the Satanic Ritual Abuse. It is, the rape, the torture, the sacrificing of babies and children and humans, adults as well. So it's a death cult. It is a death cult. And they use their mind control slaves as part of all of that. So, even though, the me that I know as me doesn't have any, connection to any of that, within me, I've been subjected to and exposed to all of that. So that's what I've been, enslaved to and used for, including the production of, with Thor trailers being actually in the movie business, the porn movie business. Porn, has been made very socially acceptable, and I'm not talking about, consensual sex between adults. That's not what the Illuminati porn is. This is like snuff films and just, the most depraved and disgusting filth on earth. That's really what it is. So it's, horrific stuff to actually have to, try to put it all together and make sense of stuff that doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't, and it's deliberately made to be so traumatic. So traumatic that, your healthy, normal human mind can't process it, because we're not meant to. It's not meant to exist. It's not meant to be part of, natural humanity. It's not part of natural humanity. So, yeah, I didn't know. I didn't even know that I was in, the family cult. I didn't know that. And when this whole COVID crap started, I just knew instinctively. I was just like, oh my goodness, like, this is bad news for humanity. This is bad news for the children. This is not good. And so I started working really hard to raise awareness in the community and to build the freedom community and get true news and information out to people. And through my prayer, my connection with the Creator in my heart, I was asking, asking for like help, what I actually did, and my videos are probably still on YouTube. I don't know if they've deleted them or not. They delete everything. I had a whole bunch of stuff on Vimeo on a paid account, and they deleted all of that. So, they can character assassinate you, and they can digitally assassinate you, and they just control the whole network, all the information. But in the very beginning, I, made my surrender to the divine creator and my declaration of life, claiming my right to life. And yeah, in my prayer, what came to me was to actually, make this stand to break up with the bank and just say, look, I know, how this is all connected. My brain works, it's a business brain, it works in systems, so I see the connections between all of these different, aspects of the system and all the different sectors and institutions. It's all connected. And so I could see that, what they were ultimately working towards, and we know what they're working towards, the complete enslavement of humanity and the depopulation. They declared their intent to depopulate the vast majority of the surface population. That's a big part of what's going on with the geoengineering and the direct energy weapons. When they say that these massive fires are started by lightning strikes, well, maybe there's some natural lightning strikes, but a lot of what's been going on has been deliberately engineered weather warfare. Same with the flooding, and humanity, the surface dwellers, basically get all their information from the enemy, coming from the TV and, what's streaming in their fake book feed, which is all controlled information, all coming from the AI, all coming from the Illuminati. That's what David Bowie said right before he died. Google is the Illuminati, it's all controlled. And so the people on the surface just, have basically been reacting to symptoms of what's going on without being able to connect the dots, without being able to see the big picture. And I've been trying to share information in a way that people could, receive it and do something, like starting with the food freedom stuff, that we need our food independence, because part of their plan is to cut off the food supply. Give people good information about natural immunity, and that, we don't need these injections that are actually a bioweapon. That's a bad idea. Everyone needs to stop going along with that. But we don't need masks. The masking is actually a form of satanic ritual abuse that the Illuminati use to see who is either knowingly subservient to them, or just checking how many of the general population are still under the mass trauma-based mind control. So all this stuff's connected. And in answer to my prayer about what are we going to do about this, the making the stand for the breaking up with the bank was the most important thing, because the economic hardship and the economic slavery, people being, compelled to do absolutely anything to keep the magical tokens coming so that they can pay the mortgage, the death pledge, to the death cult, to the banking cartel, which is criminal, privately owned, Illuminati owned. The banking cartel, Illuminati, they are the same pyramid scheme. Banking cartel, Illuminati, criminals, death pledge to the death cult. That's what drives people's compulsion. When I see all these system workers that even if they don't agree with the orders they're being given and what they're told to do, they feel compelled that they have to do it because they're doing their job and they need to keep their job. so that they can pay that death pledge or pay that rent to keep a roof over their family's head. So they've connected our human survival instinct with these magical tokens, which requires us to do as we're told. Be compliant, comply or die, comply, 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 comply or die. But the truth is, complying with the death cult is going to lead to a dead end. Complying with the death cult leads to death. That's how it's set up. And ultimately, the Illuminati see us as a human herd to be managed. They see us as a food source, something to suck the life out of, the energy out of, the adrenalized blood out of the children. It's, it's disgusting, but to them, it's just business as usual. And that is what's going on planet Earth in reality. We've got mass depopulation, mass genocide, the deployment of all sorts of weapons against us, mostly coming through the military and the financial institution, but it's also spiritual. It's a spiritual war. So it's coming through the churches and through the New Age movement. That's a big one that's got so many people trapped and deluded and deceived. So, in my asking for what to do, what the Creator gave to me was this breaking up with the bank. And I, wrote up my signs and talked to Toby. We went for a walk around the Sandy Creek Nature Reserve and discussed, what we were going to do and making this stand together. And we agreed. We agreed that we would do this breaking up with the bank process, and I thought he was standing together with me in that. And yeah, put the signs up, went on the public record, made videos, told people what we were doing, wrote the breaking up with the bank letter, and then that was supported by Dylan Didge Wilson. And Dylan, I connected with through Tanya Morgana, who was a Facebook friend. I don't know her, I haven't met her, I haven't spoken to her on the phone. I have actually no real world connection with her whatsoever. But she introduced me to Didge and his People's Treaty work, which, I just felt straight away. I was like, yes, this is brilliant. But it took me a long time. I'm pretty slow. I have a lot going on all the time, and deliberately so. When you're part of the trauma-based mind control programming, your mind is deliberately split into lots and lots of pieces, and there's lots of internal booby traps, secret saboteurs that are there to stop you from ever getting free. You're not meant to get free. You're meant to stay enslaved, so that your slave master, your handler, which is what Toby was. He was a imposter, fake husband. He was not my husband. He didn't love me. He managed me and pimped me out and used me as a weapon. Used me in his Illuminati shitfuckery, which came down from his dad, and has been passed on to Kai and Jaden Broad. So these are, very high level Masonic witches is what they really are. They practice witchcraft. They're, they pass on this intergenerational demonic possession through rape, incest. It's disgusting. And that's, the Illuminati's big into incest and cannibalism. Very sick shit. Very, very, very sick shit. And they thrive, the demonicness thrives off of having things be as absolutely vile and filthy and evil as possible. And yeah. I've come from a pretty evil family who has been, absolute torture to have to realise that they don't love me. They don't love me because my love for them is really real. I've loved them with my whole heart, with everything I've had for my whole life. And, you know, especially my boys, Kai and Jaden, you know, they're my babies that I've had since they're little babies, and I thought that I was a good protective mum, so I thought they were safe. But they have not been anything near safe, and they are not good now. They have been absolutely corrupted. They're criminals. They're proper criminals. And they both need to be properly investigated too. Which is so sad, but it's true. Anyway, when I wrote the breaking up with the bank letter, Dylan wrote a letter in support of that. And I was like, thank God. Literally. Thank God somebody gets it. Somebody actually, you know, gets like what it is I'm standing for and why this is so important. And Ditch started teaching me more because I wanted to learn. I wanted to learn all about the People's Treaty and, you know, what he was talking about in, you know, his capacity as Land Law Marshal, which was a title that his senior lawman, Lewis Walker, one of the original elders, had given to him, you know, in recognition that he actually knows what's going on. You know, he's a man of truth and honour and integrity and respect, that he actually operates under the real law, the natural law, the land law, creator law. And yeah, that's, you know, that's how I really connected with Dylan, was through that work, and, you know, that he made himself available to teach me. We were working together on the phone, and it was through his support that essentially when the, you know, Illuminati and the Freemasons that are connected and conspire, the Illuminati are the, you know, top tier, and the Masons, you know, work for them. That's why Unky Toad thinks the Masons are his little pleb foot soldiers. You know, they conspired to stage this massive Sandy Creek siege and come and attack me in my home, you know, which obviously at the time I still thought Toby was my husband, and I thought they were, you know, he was standing with me and they were attacking us both, but that's not true. He was one of them the whole time, set the whole thing up, controlled opposition. And really, I think that that was intended to be a blood sacrifice. It was intended that he was going to actually hold a shootout, you know, and if he had have given me a gun and told me to, you know, defend myself and him and our property, and the police shot at us, I would have done it, because, you know, he's my handler. He's the one that's trained me. And my, you know, in the trauma-based mind control, you know, your life is in the hands of your handler. So they'd set that up, and I think it really was intended. It was intended to be a blood sacrifice, and it was only because of all of the work, you know, the teaching that Dylan had put in helping me to comprehend, you know, the real jurisdiction of the real land law, and being able to put the police on notice that they had no jurisdiction and talk to them in truth about what was really going on. And also, you know, the work that I had done with the elders, and Grandpa Louis especially, who gave us the People's Peace Alliance as well, which was, you know, his offer here in his country for us to be able to bring ourselves into standing in respect of the real law holders and the real land law, know whose country we're in, and we know that, you know, our elders are the real law holders, and we respect our real sovereignty of this nation and the real law holders here. We don't respect, you know, the invading criminal corporations and their foot soldiers who act against our individual freedom and liberty to have peace and privacy in our own home. We don't trust that. We don't comply with that. We don't bow down to that. We call it out. We see it for what it is, just criminality. People in dress-ups, just because these coppers are wearing, you know, hats and badges and guns, that does not make them lawful. They're criminals working for the Illuminati and their Freemason upline bosses, the pedophiles in Parliament, you know, all criminals, and they follow orders for their paycheck because they've got families and they need to keep a roof over their head. So, you know, the coppers need this housing amnesty just as much as everyone else. And I know that from having been dragged through the cells repeatedly, you know, 4 times they've abducted me and dragged me through the cells. And I know that there's plenty of coppers in there that don't want to be there following those shitty orders. They don't want to. They want a new way. They want to actually be proud of themselves and who they are and what they're doing, and they want to do good work and help people. They don't want to be stealing children on behalf of the pedophiles, working with the criminals inside the DCT. They don't want to be doing that. They don't want to be coming to abduct me when clearly they can see with the time they've spent with me, I'm not a criminal. I'm not a criminal. You know? So, anyway, when they did attack me and abduct me the first time, that was like super traumatic, you know, but I guess like could have been a blood sacrifice, so I could have been dead. So the being abducted and then held in isolation and the whole big drama that went on with that, you know, as traumatic as it was, I lived, and I spent that whole time educating absolutely everyone, you know, talking to all of the police and all of the prison staff and all of the other prisoners, you know, all of the other people in cages, talking to everyone, listening to their stories and telling them, you know, what's going on, begging them to stop hurting themselves and each other with all of this COVID crap. Like, the prison was in full COVID freak out mode. You know, there was people in there truly fearful for their lives, thinking this was like, you know, a deadly pandemic, because that's what's coming through all of their internal computer programming from the AI, from the Illuminati. So they see it every day. They've got to, you know, before on the prison computer shopping system, which I didn't really get to use, but I gave it a go. I tried, you know. Anyway, before you can even get to anything, there was like 30 COVID related notifications that you had to like tick that you'd, you know, acknowledged that and seen that. And that's what they're doing to all of these internal system workers in the healthcare, in education, in the prisons, in police, in the military, everywhere that people are within the system and they're following these corporate policies that are coming from the AI, the Illuminati. It's being pushed out into people's faces day after day after day. That's mind control. It's mind control, because it's all lies and, you know, misinformation. But when I was, you know, in the cage, it was, I wasn't able to speak for myself. So basically they put me in the cage to prevent me from being able to have my own conversation with the judge, because the judge was terrified of the truth. And when I was first taken on the Thursday and held overnight in Elizabeth till the Friday, saying that I was going to be able to speak to the judge on the Friday, I had so much support, like a big outpouring of community support, So, you know, people turned up, and if I had have been able to speak and people were able to see how the real law works and the truth, you know, that they didn't have any jurisdiction over me and they had to release me to my friends and family, and I could have explained, you know, to everyone what happened, then it would have been done. And they couldn't allow that. They couldn't allow people to see the truth. So they covered it up by shutting me up and shipping me off to lock me up in isolation and cut me off from all communications. No pen, no paper, no phone. You know, I had a 30 second phone call with my dad, you know, when they were inducting me on the Friday night at the prison. And he basically said, "Oh, so you're going to be in there to the new year. I've seen it on the TV." I was like, "Dad, that's them, you know, like, thanks for the psychological pep talk before I have to go into the cage. I really appreciate that." Like, good God. And then they cut me off from all communication. No one spoke to me. Tobes, I thought my loving husband would, you know, get in his backhoe or get in his, you know, tractor and come and barge down the gates. Like, I really did. I thought he loved me. I was so delusional. But I loved him. So, you know, I thought it was real, and I thought it was, you know, reciprocal. I thought he loved me as much as I loved him. So I was blind. To the reality that he was an absolute criminal, stitching me up at home, shacked up with Mel. That's where he was. He was at home, shacked up with Mel. So on day 11, I think it was, I finally got a phone call, which was a lawyer ringing me. And I didn't want a lawyer. I didn't need a lawyer. I spoke to Patrick and I told Patrick, I don't want a lawyer, I don't need a lawyer, I can speak for myself. Do you know what sovereignty is? You know, do you know about the real law? Like, you're a slave master, you're a slave handler. Toby's a slave master, he was like my slave master. Patrick was a slave handler, you know, a manager. There's lots of managers, but lawyers are managers. All lawyers are slave managers, all of them. Even if they're genuinely, you know, acting like they're trying to help you, they're there to collect money for managing you under fraud law. And I told him, so he knew. But he essentially said, if you don't appoint me to speak for you, you're not going to get a bail hearing to the new year. And I knew, like, Toby had arranged that. So I knew that Toby had set me up, that if I didn't go along with that, that all of my family and friends and community who didn't know what was going on and were so confused and so traumatized, they would all think that I was unreasonable. You know, I needed to be reasonable in the situation. And so I agreed to that, which I wish that I hadn't, but I did. So, you know, hindsight 2020, right? But at the same time, I asked Patrick to please ask Toby to speak to Dylan and ask Dylan to send lawful notice to the court on my behalf, because I knew that he would, you know, say what I wanted said, which was the truth. I wanted them to be told the truth and to stop their rubbish, to stop making their fraudulent claims to authority, their fraudulent claims to jurisdiction. They have no lawful permission to exist here. They have no permission to trade. These are for-profit corporations. The court, SAPOL, the prison itself, you know, that goes to the royal family, Serco. So William, I think it is, Prince William is the, you know, the boss of the human trafficking slave trade. Ugh, disgusting. You know, this is the Illuminati. These are the people that conspired against me to put me in there, to shut me up, so that no one would know the truth. So Dylan and, you know, the supporter base for People's Treaty and the sovereignty movement that know the truth, and there's lots of people that do know the truth, you know, and that's growing all the time. Dylan noticed the court on my behalf, and so did other people. They swamped the court, so much so that, you know, they essentially overloaded the email, you know, system and were asked to stop. And it was actually Dylan noticing the system to say you need to provide some evidence of your lawful sovereignty, or you need to release Solly. That is what was the catalyst for having me released. And then they just set up the smoke and mirrors on the, you know, front end to stage the bail hearing on the same day, which was October 13th, which is Dylan's birthday, and our International Independence Day, because it's when the system acquiesced to the truth and they admitted they can't come up with any evidence of lawful sovereignty because they don't have it, which means they have no jurisdiction of law. It's all fraud, all smokes and mirrors. You know, it's actually maritime admiralty law that has no place on the land, like go back to the sea, go back where you came from, you're not welcome here, we don't want you, you're trespassing, fuck off. But during the time in the cage, you know, that's like, it really was a super traumatic ordeal, and it was only through my spiritual connection with the Creator, who is Dylan. I know, you know, it's like hard to put together, right? It's big stuff. That I had the spiritual support and protection to actually help me to be able to, you know, survive that and stay strong enough in myself to get through that and be able to come out the other side and still be functioning, because that's, you know, it's basically meant to be slave reprogramming. You know, that's when you're not being compliant and they need to reprogram you. They need to get you back in line as a slave. That's what they do. They put you into the cages. And it's slave training. If you've never been, if you've never taken the tour, you can see how all the slave training works when they're managing people in cages. That's how the whole draconian slave system works. And that's why Toby sent me. He sent me to reprogram me, because I was, you know, getting a little bit too outspoken and gaining a little bit too much traction. You know, people were starting to listen. I'd been holding the People's Treaty fires, and people were coming and they were listening, and Toby couldn't have it. He couldn't have it, because the truth is, you know, the antidote. It's the cure to the lies of the Illuminati fraud, because they're all liars worshipping Lucifer. Like, that's what they are, Luciferians. They all worship a liar, and that's part of, you know, do as thou will. So do whatever you want, fuck the consequences, fuck children, fuck animals, kill whoever you want, do whatever you like, lie, cheat, steal. They're demented. They're really demented. And always conceal, never reveal. Keep the secrets. Keep the secrets of the death cult. So Toby hated Dylan and hated the People's Treaty. He pretended that he was in support. Pretended. It's all fake. All fake. So he was just controlled opposition the whole time. And when I did get out, I still had no comprehension of what a criminal Toby was. I still thought he was my husband. I just thought he was fearful for me. I don't know, I just couldn't, it was too much. I couldn't connect it. It was all all too much. So, you know, I felt for him, and that's the story they told me. Like, poor Toby, when, you know, Kai and Toby came to pick me up, they essentially said, oh, you know, things have changed, like, no one supports you, is what they said immediately. No one supports you. I was like, why? Why would no one support me? You know, I'm standing for truth and for freedom and for peace and for real child protection and the housing amnesty. Why would people stop supporting me because a bunch of criminals attacked me at my home and have conspired against me? That doesn't make any sense. But that's because, obviously, the Illuminati, Toby and Kai and Jaden and Sapphire and Felicia and Mel and, you know, the whole little crew had all got together and were all running interference. And Gail from Poetic Justice, she's one of them. She's a witch. She told me herself. You know, these are all people that were conspiring to essentially set me up to seem either like a criminal or a crazy person. That's what they wanted everyone to think of me. You know, she's lost it. Solly's lost it. That's essentially what they were putting into circulation, to try and remove all of that actual real grassroots community support that was there for me from the people that actually know me and love me and trust me, because I've been actively working in genuine service of humanity, my community, for my whole life, you know, my whole adult life anyway. You know, from the time I had Kai, I've really made, you know, in my own heart, the commitment to try and make the world the best possible place for him, you know, and for his kids. I didn't want him to have to be part of this slave system. I had no idea that I was in an Illuminati family. Oh my God. What a rude awakening. Rude awakening. So yeah, it was Dylan that supported me through that whole ordeal, both, you know, inside spiritually and externally with the lawful noticing of the court. And I felt really bonded with him in a really good, positive way. You know, just actual gratitude and love, and like real love for Dylan, and respect, so much respect and appreciation. And, you know, I have actually, you know, from the very beginning, trusted Dylan, just naturally and automatically, because he's trustworthy. You know, he's been, real. He's been real. So, and he's been a source of good information and real support. But, you know, when I first connected with Dylan, it's not like I was looking for a man in my life. I wasn't looking for a man. I had a husband. I thought I was happily married. I thought I had a good husband. You know, so I wasn't looking for a man at all. What I was looking for was the truth. That's what I was actually seeking and asking for, you know, asking the Creator, asking the universe for the truth. And the question that I was asking, which I asked openly and repeatedly, you know, within the freedom community, was how do we restore divine and natural law so we can all be real world free to live in peace together? So that's what I was asking. And that's, you know, when Dylan came into my life in response to that asking. And yeah, I was so grateful for his support. And then, yeah, through the ordeal of that, being held in isolation, and really, you know, knowing in my heart that it was Dylan that got me out, you know, and also knowing that Toby, when it came down to it, did not have my back. He didn't have faith in the truth. He didn't have faith in me. He didn't defend my honour. He didn't speak up for the stand that I was making. He just ran interference. You know, I just thought it was because he's a bit stupid and confused. Like, that's how I, you know, justified it to myself. I was just like, oh, he was just traumatized, because I was traumatized. So I thought he was traumatized, which is, you know, what made me excuse all the things that didn't really make sense, because I just thought, oh, he's traumatized, you know, like my poor husband, he had machine guns pointed at him, like just giving endless benefit of the doubt, you know, because I couldn't possibly conceive in my mind that he could, like, really actually be evil. So evil as to be deliberately trying to sabotage and cause harm to his own wife. My mind couldn't process that. So, yeah, you know, coming out from that experience, I already knew from when I was in the cage that Toby had hooked up with Mel. I felt it. I knew it in my women's business. I just knew it. And I had hoped that he would be honest with me. You know, I thought, like, exceptional circumstances, you know, this shit is next level. I didn't think he had any part in orchestrating it. I just thought it was like a series of seriously traumatic, unfortunate events, like my whole life, because that's what it's like a bit, you know, when you're actually in the Illuminati cult and being handled. There's always trauma. But you have to, you know, frame it up in some positive way that enables you to continue to cope, you know, continue to live, continue to reorientate yourself towards a new dream, you know, refocus, come back to optimism and hope and what's good, because otherwise you would shrivel up and die, the amount of trauma that they subject you to. So anyway, I thought he might be honest about that, and I wanted to, you know, give the space and time for him to be able to be honest. But that was never going to happen. It was just my, you know, naivety. And then it was only a few weeks after that, so I had not even almost, you know, recovered, not regenerated myself from the trauma of the whole being kept in isolation for 3 weeks, cut off from everyone ordeal. Then they took Takara, Donna's daughter Takara, and, you know, Takara was directly known to me, just like Harrison and Jackie. You know, it's like ripping my heart out. They might as well be stealing my children. That's how I feel about all the children, but, you know, these are the children that I have met that are known to me. So, you know, I was devastated when they took Takara. I was just like, oh my God, no, that's not happening, you crazy psychopaths. And Donna, you know, Donna and I, not friends, but, you know, and I had respect for her and for the work that she'd been doing down at the CLC. She's very fierce, very dedicated, and she was one of the people that turned up for Jackie when Harrison was taken. And I know, you know, that she is someone that you want fighting with you in your battles. I wanted to be able to be that support for her that she turned up to be for Jackie. So, you know, I wanted to support her in getting Takara free from the system. And so I said, come here, just come here, Donna, you know, because the whole of the CLC was in chaos. The, you know, the Illuminati and the cult had essentially taken over and destroyed the whole fabric of the community that Pete and Donna and Charlotte and Nick and, you know, the people down there had built. They'd worked for a long time to build a real community, and Unky Tobes saw what was going on and he couldn't have that. That's why Pete's still in the cage too. Anyway, Donna did come and stay. She had a caravan, so she was at the farm with me, and I was working in support of her. In you know, she was running her own process, and I was trying to bring what I could to her, what she was able to receive, which, you know, when you're in trauma response, you're not in a learning brain. It's not like you can take in new information very well. You can't absorb it. You're in survival mode. So you're basically doing the best that you can with what you know at the time, is how it works. So I was trying to hold the space for her so that, you know, she could have access to the truth of the real land law and utilize that to be able to get Takara free. And I asked Dylan for his help again, and he again, you know, graciously wrote a letter of support instructing that Takara needed to be released. And he was, you know, again providing like the actual spiritual support, the energy to enable me to support Donna when I was already wrecked. I was already properly wrecked at that point. And at the same time, Toby was like skitzing out. He was, you know, not good. He was sabotaging and had weird stuff going on with Donna. They had, you know, it was all very weird. It was getting weirder by the minute. And essentially, you know, in this whole process, I was trusting Toby less and less, and like really realizing how much I, you know, loved and trusted Dylan. And yeah, it was, I think, you know, after Takara was released, and I don't know, coming up to when on the 7th of November is Toby and my wedding anniversary, you know, of our fake Illuminati marriage, because that's what it was, a fake Illuminati marriage. It was real to me, fake to him. You know, he took off his wedding rings almost immediately, which is part of their, I read it, you know, in their Masonic crap. It's part of their Masonic ritual. Take that off, you know, because they're not married. That's a fraud. That's a front. That's just an illusion. But it was real to me. So then, you know, I basically was in a conflict within myself of, you know, feeling so much love and gratitude and trust for Dylan, and then also having, you know, all of these promises, you know, to be a faithful, devoted, loving wife to my husband that I'd made. And I just, yeah, you know, it basically, when I realised that I actually, you know, really do love Dylan, like proper love, big love, and, you know, not just love his work, not just gratitude for him as a human being, but like love him as a man. That like was a massive trigger, which I'm sure, you know, was programmed into the monarch mind control stuff, you know, and essentially what happened as soon as I, you know, realised that is I shut down all communication with Dylan and just cut him off completely and told Toby, I love Dylan. And then everything went to shit. My whole life became like a crazy nightmare, and I really didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to deal with it. I felt very guilty, you know, even though I had never said anything inappropriate to Dylan, and he had never said anything inappropriate to me. He was just kind and respectful and, you know, supportive. And, you know, love's not a crime. It's not a crime. It's actually the highest law. It's not a crime at all. And I had been honest with Toby. You know, I thought that was the right thing to do, which was a terrible, terrible idea. But I didn't know he was a criminal. I thought he was my husband, and I felt bad. I felt like, oh my God, what am I meant to do about this? Like, I don't know what to do in this situation. So I'll just tell my husband, my fake husband, unfortunately, the truth. And Tobes essentially used that against me, weaponized that against me, and escalated his abuse against me, and, you know, sabotage and attack, not only against me, but against Dylan and against the entire sovereignty movement. You know, so in his Illuminati capacity, like when the sovereignty movement went to do their, you know, Canberra, taking back the old Parliament House, Unky Tobes had already put in place a massive militarised police response to that, to shut it all down and to, you know, basically run complete character assassination on Dylan and People's Treaty and smear campaign on everything that was going on, muddy the water, turn the tent embassy mob against the sovereignty mob, and just, you know, make anarchy, division, doubt and division, and ultimately, you know, big bunch of stormtroopers, you know, all of these pedophile protecting police marched in and shut down what was like a beautiful family friendly like environment with the kids all doing ceremony, and the police came and terrorized the children. They came and terrorized the children, which was essentially my fault, because I'd been telling Toby all about the plans for what was happening in Canberra, because I was excited about it and I thought that, you know, he was with me, but really I was basically, you know, the unwitting informant to the Illuminati that had that all sabotaged and shut down. So they came and terrorised the children and then stole everything. They stole thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars worth of, you know, camping equipment and kitchen setup and everything that had been set up to have it be like a really, you know, massive celebration of freedom and peace and unity and the restoration of the real law. So what was meant to be, you know, a really joyful, beautiful coming together of all of the people from all of the nations, all of the original people coming together, all the original sovereigns from all the sovereign nations, as well as all of the rest of us coming together, People's Treaty, all got destroyed by, you know, Unky Tobes and his mates. Anyway, I'm going on and on. It's been really long. Still trying to put it all together. But I do love Dylan. I will always love Dylan. I love you, Didge. And I'm sorry. And I really want you to talk to me again. Please talk to me again. Alright, I love you guys.